Shadur Sanders never thought that playing in the city of Boulder would be a precursor to his NFL draft stock falling, plummeting like a boulder. Wow. This is almost unprecedented at this point. Welcome into the Voice of College Football and our NFL Draft post-game call-in show. We have left the call-in line both in the description section of this video and also in the chat, so please give me a call on the NFL Draft or anything concerning college football, and we'll be around for a while depending on your interest. Let's see who's on the line. Mike G here, rooting for those Lions. Jackson, good to see you. Mick B as well with the Cleveland Browns last few selections. No, that would be Mick's angle on the Ohio State Buckeyes in the NFL Draft with 7 drafted so far. I believe 7 in the first roughly 45 picks. For Ohio State, we knew that it was going to be a prosperous draft for the Buckeyes. Adam Lamparillo, good to see you, Adam. Shadur made the dumbest mistake imaginable, being an arrogant ass, and lost millions because of it, and we'll discuss. We will discuss. Adam believes that Drew Aller will face the same fate next year. Well, I would lay a considerable amount of money that Drew Aller will be selected before Shadur Sanders. That would be my guess at this point. We're going to run through the second and third rounds, of course, right here at the Voice of College Football. So let's knock out a few picks in the second round, and then we will start taking calls. Karen, good to see you as well. Whoa, Nelly College Football, good to see you. So the night began with the Cleveland Browns selecting first in the second round with Carson Schweisinger out of UCLA. Very athletic linebacker with a big motor, makes plays all over the field. Decent pick for the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how he projects as an NFL player, but a really good college football player in Carson Schweisinger. Houston goes with Jaden Higgins. And what is so interesting about the Houston Texans is that they already had an Iowa State wide receiver in Xavier Hutchinson, who is more of the long, big strider on the outside. And they selected not just one Iowa State wide receiver to complement Higgins, or Hutchinson, but they selected both of Iowa State's wide receivers. I don't know the last time one team took 2 wide receivers from the same team. Mighty interesting there. Seattle's been making waves in the NFL Draft. They go with Nick Emanwara out of South Carolina, really good football player there. Cleveland Browns, Quinshon Judkins, of course, of Ohio State fame, first of Ole Miss, big seasons in the SEC, and then, of course, a national championship run. And Quinshon Judkins, an extremely physical back for a team that has featured Kareem Hunt and, of course, Nick Chubb in recent years, but the Cleveland Browns need a running back. They go with Judkins. Miami with Jonah Savianaya out of Arizona, the guard. Patriots, Travion Henderson. So the Buckeyes' 2 backs go off the board, and that's how close they are. And it's really funny because, of course, Travion Henderson has been the star at Ohio State since 2021. And then you bring in Judkins, and there was much talk about, who's really the starting running back and how are they going to complement one another? Is one of them going to stand out above the other one? And as it turned out, going right all the way through their collegiate careers, all the way to the NFL Draft, only being selected, separated by 2 spots. That's incredible that we see Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins going at the 36th and 38th positions in the NFL Draft. So the Buckeyes have 2 more off the board. Travion Henderson, we'll see how he plays in the NFL. He was a finesse back coming into college and had a remarkable freshman season when things were blocked properly and he could get out on the perimeter or hit a seam. But he became a much more physical back and a good pass receiver. Trey Henderson, of Ohio State. All right, Chicago comes in with Luther Burden, who was one of the top wide receivers selected coming out of high school, went to Mizzou, had a very productive career catching passes, mostly from Brady Cook at Missouri. Then you got Tyler Shook, good selection for Louisville, can make all the throws, an extremely talented thrower. The football started his career at Oregon, traveled to Texas Tech in the Big 12, and then finished off his career by taking Louisville to an ACC championship game 2 years ago, and then he finished off his career for Jeff Brom and company, and I'm certainly thinking that he's going to benefit from his days with Jeff Brom at Louisville. TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle from South Carolina, goes to Buffalo, and we see, as signified by the NFL draft, how good that South Carolina defense was last season. Mason Taylor, the tight end out of LSU, a really good one, goes to the Jets. Alfred Collins, highly productive Texas defensive tackle, one of the reasons why Texas has had one of the best rush defense games in college football, goes to San Francisco. Dallas takes Donovan Izuruku. I am not obviously familiar with him. He's an edge from Boston College. Do not remember him, seeing him, or being aware of Izir Riwaku to the Dallas Cowboys. Indianapolis Colts, JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State, the edge, who had an extremely highly productive career, much scrutiny as the number one player coming out of high school, and somewhat disappointed early, but really a strong career. I believe he had 18 tackles for loss in helping lead Ohio State to a national championship. Los Angeles Rams with Terrence Ferguson, really good tight end, athletic tight end, big body in regards to length, not necessarily size, but length, out of Oregon. Arizona Cardinals go with Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan. What's interesting about Will Johnson is he was a five-star, one of the best players coming out of high school himself, had a stellar career at Michigan, really showed right out of the gate in 2022 that he was going to be a top corner, and took him no time to acclimate to college football. Not a super top-end speed guy, but man, he's a physical guy at 6'2". He supports the run, and he's just a solid player. But knee injuries knocked him down the draft. Houston goes with Arante Ursary, the offensive tackle from Minnesota. Demetrius Knight, the linebacker from South Carolina. There again, man, the South Carolina defense just loaded, and not all of them have come off the board or been drafted. Many of them stayed at South Carolina. So Cincinnati gets a good one in Demetrius Knight. I've heard good things about him. He projects well to the next level. And we'll finish out here before we take calls with Seattle Seahawks taking Elijah Arroyo, the tight end from Miami. Arroyo is the most talented tight end in the draft. If you're just talking about body type, size, speed combination, can run like a wide receiver, amazing speed, Elijah Arroyo is your guy. Goes to Seattle and will catch passes from Sam Darnold, former USC standout. All right, folks, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. We have left the call-in line there in the chat, so give me a call on college football, anything concerning the sport that we love, but we're focused, of course, on the NFL draft. All right, folks, we will take our first call of the night. It's coming in from Dan. Dan, what's going on tonight?
Good evening, Art. How are we doing tonight, good sir?
I am doing well. How are you?
Congratulations, first of all, to my dogs, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, and JT Talamalu for getting drafted. My boys, Quinshon and Travion, both stellar and stud-out running backs, going to some good teams. I just say, may your careers be long and great, and may championships reign, and especially for my boy JT Tamalu in Indianapolis.
Absolutely.
Wish the boys the best, and you're always welcome back home at Ohio State. because it's the school of the brotherhood. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That has been the term since at least Urban Meyer.
The term since Urban Meyer first started as head coach at the Ohio State University. But I want to talk about also the recruiting class of Ohio State for the next year. So far as what I've been seeing is looking pretty good for our, my Buckeyes, and I feel like our team's going to be really good. And that's just kind of my take. And yes, Bergs, I will leave, and I will see you Sunday. By the way, Sunday, Mark, is the unsanctioned show, 7 p.m. Sunday night. So just a little heads up.
I have reiterated to this moron countless times. Now, we've got all sorts of people on here that first became viewers of the show and then started their own channels. Everybody's got a YouTube channel at this point. We're talking about our buddy Jackson. We're talking about Jeffrey. We're talking about Will ND. And I welcome those guys to come on here and to promote their shows, but they don't. They don't promote their shows. But I urge them to, because they've done such a remarkable job for the voice of college football and in support of me that, it's my way of giving back when we've got a few people on here that we can promote their shows. But do not come on here. This is my show. This is my channel. Do not promote your crap on here unless you have permission from me and I promote your stuff. So, Dan, Caden, whatever in the hell your name is, get the hell off my channel for a good month. I don't want to see you for at least a month. I've told you countless times, stop being a clown. Stop being a moron. But you refuse to listen and you continue to be a moron. So bye, leave, go. All right. Yeah, Shadur Sanders is obviously the talk of the weekend. The talk of the weekend, we'll talk about that in just a second in regards to what is causing this evaluation. And of course, the quarterback position's different than the other positions because you only play one. And it's much like when we talk about college football recruiting and talking about quarterbacks staying or leaving a quarterback room in college football. They either it's the decision that I'm either going to be the starter or I'm not the starter. And it's the same concept for these NFL teams drafting players. It's not like, well, we need 8 or 9 offensive linemen to play. No, we want more than just one quarterback, of course, but when we're talking about our future, we're not going to waste a draft pick projecting into the future if we don't fully believe that this guy can be a starting quarterback. And I think at this point, what's happened is that he's not necessarily evaluated to be this bad. It's just that nobody needs a quarterback. And now it's become such a stigma that you have to start to weigh, as a personnel director in the NFL, you have to start to weigh the positives, the negatives, the pros and the cons. And even if you would have just based on talent and ability have drafted this guy, if you would have done that, then I would think at this point, what factors into it more so than just the talent evaluation is okay, we're going to have to deal with an onslaught of media attention, media distractions. Our mini camp, our OTAs are going to be a circus because this is what the entire situation's going to be wrapped up in. This is all that's going to be talked about. Every player is going to be asked about Shadur Sanders and whether he's really a good teammate or what's wrong with him or is he causing a disturbance and so you start to make an evaluation that is weighted down by what's best for your organization and not necessarily a talent evaluation. Because Shadur Sanders is a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. So let's start there. That's the most obvious. Jim, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. And thank you so much for the contribution. That is much appreciated, of course. Jim is a great contributor here at the Voice of College Football. Jim, thank you so much for that. Says, no channel here, just a Voice of College Football fan. Thanks, Mark. So let's dive into this Jalen Milroe, since some people are stepping up with a Jalen Milroe talk. Yeah, B-Bean, I was perplexed that Jalen Milroe was drafted in front of Shedeur Sanders. Their development level as a quarterback is not comparable. Shedeur Sanders can run an offense. He can throw down field. Well, Jalen Milroe's got a howitzer. He can, of course, throw downfield, but I'm regards to reading a defense and making a proper decision and delivering the ball downfield. Shedeur Sanders is a much more developed quarterback and a much more advanced quarterback than Jalen Milroe. The show that I was watching, these guys were very intrigued by the Jalen Milroe selection and just say, basically expect him to receive some packages where he will be featured. And then their quarterback coach, I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, at Seattle, evidently believes, and this is where these coaches sometimes get in their own way, they believe they can fix anybody. They believe they can do anything with anyone. And they see all this raw talent. And they were talking about Jalen Milroe on this show, and it was Yahoo Sports. I'll give a shout out to Yahoo Sports. That is the one outlet tonight I will give a shout out to because they actually did a great job covering the NFL draft. I was mighty impressed with their work. I was listening to Yahoo Sports, and they had 4 dudes on there that I couldn't distinguish from Adam, except maybe the host. I've seen him somewhere else before, but they were really good. And they only had like 1,000 people watching, so they didn't have some massive show. I was watching Todd McShay for a little while, and Todd McShay was complaining about, man, this is tough to talk this long. I watched Todd McShay for about 20 minutes, and he was already complaining a couple picks into the second round that there was no way that he could talk this long, and that he was going to have to take a break, and then he was going to come back and take questions and comments from the gallery after the draft. And I thought, my goodness, Todd McShay, you should see my schedule. I sit here for like 8 hours a day and talk, or at least I used to. But yeah, Todd McShay gave up, so I had to leave Todd McShay, and I went to Yahoo Sports, and I was glad that I did because I thought that they did an excellent job. But anyway, they talked about Jalen Milroe and the quarterback's coach at Seattle, and I think, again, that time and time again, we have seen it out of these NFL teams and these quarterbacks coaches, is that they truly believe that they are the one. They're the one that's going to get through to this athlete. They are the one that's going to be able to harness all this athleticism and be able to steer it in the right direction, to be able to get it focused, to be able to get it to become cerebral. And that works out about 10% of the time. It rarely works out. Anthony Richardson, through his first 2 seasons at Indianapolis, pretty similar to Jalen Milroe in a number of ways, has been a disaster. So is Jalen Milroe ever going to be a decent starting quarterback in the NFL? The odds are heavily against it. It's possible. It's possible. But most likely not. Matthew Miller stopping by. Good to see Matthew here. Of course, the Texas Show comes your way every Tuesday, so check it out. Dylan Gabriel over Sanders and Ewers. Yes. Yes. Both have way more upside. That one makes no sense. Then again, it's the Browns. It is the Browns. And if it was another team other than the Browns or the Jets or the Lions 5 years ago, I would say, wow, okay, well, they've made a move that I would not have made, but they must know something that I don't know. But since it is the Cleveland Browns, I texted my buddy who's a huge Browns fan and said, seriously, Dylan Gabriel, really? The Browns They're one of the 5 worst teams in the league, and they are drafting Dillon Gabriel with a 3rd round selection. Wow. I can't explain that. If Dillon Gabriel maximizes his ability to the nth degree and gets every bit of arm strength that he can muster out of that left arm and everything that he possibly can, maybe he can be a functional starting quarterback in the NFL. Maybe. There have certainly been all sorts of quarterbacks who have left college football that we have had issue with part of their game, and usually it's arm strength and not being able to make all the NFL throws. Dillon Gabriel cannot make all the NFL throws. Shedeur Sanders can. Quinn Ewers can. Yeah, I would rather have either one of those players as a physical player, the quarterback position, just from the standpoint of the physical attributes. I would take either one of those guys miles above Dillon Gabriel. However, I'm sure Dillon Gabriel interviewed much better than Shedeur Sanders, and there is something to be said about that. I ran a poll on X that basically said, why is Shedeur Sanders plummeting in the NFL draft? Is it number one, that the media had a disconnect? Let me pull up this poll. Let's see how many people we've had vote in our poll. 197. And I think it's buried on Twitter now, so that's probably where it's going to land. Excuse me. So that's what we've got. Oh, you can't see it. What happened? There we go. That only took about 45 seconds. So the truth about Shedeur Sanders' situation, as posted by me on the Voice of College Football X. If you're on X/Twitter, please follow us at the Voice of College Football, and myself, you see right there, Mark Rogers, VOCFB. Okay. I heard this theory out there. So I'm not in any way, well, it was pretty obvious what 2 of the 3 answers would be to why he's plummeted in the draft. But I had heard basically that even though the scouting evaluation on him has been consistent ever since early last season, throughout the season, watching the game tape and then going into the offseason and all the measurables. And remember, he did not throw at the NFL Combine. I don't know that he did much of anything at the NFL Combine. That shows a lack of competitiveness that the top end guys can get away with because they're so highly regarded that they don't have to test at the NFL Combine. Well, Shedeur Sanders should have tested at the NFL Combine. So this is the first time I thought and heard the theory that the media was telling us Shedeur Sanders is a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And there was nothing coming from NFL general managers and personnel directors that was feeding the media's perception. That was all media hype. I don't know that to be true, but that's what I heard. So I threw that out as an option at 32.5% out of about 200 votes cast. Secondly, we heard this all over the place, and I do believe that this is a factor to some degree, and it might just be the overwhelming, overriding factor, is that he was basically a punk during these interviews. And I heard a few people comment, well, he was just being himself, and he was just showing that he doesn't acquiesce to anyone. He certainly is just his own man, and he's going to tell you what he thinks, and he's not going to be intimidated by a situation. He's going to tell it like it is, and just kind of that's who he is. and that it's a fine line between, portraying yourself in a certain way and having that come off as a positive, that you're strong, you're confident, you tell it like it is, you believe in yourself, all that, versus you're unteachable, uncoachable, difficult to work with. If you can pull it off from a personality standpoint and from the standpoint of being interviewed, to show the latter and still keep the former, that again, you're your own man. You don't, you carry on and live life to the beat of your own drum, all those things, the confidence factors there, but you're able to be coached and taught, and you're a team-oriented guy, and you carry both of those equations into one, then that's what you're looking for. That's the ultimate quarterback from a personality approach. But apparently Shedeur Sanders did not rub general managers the right way. And then the third selection is that the talent evaluation, again, is not what we were told it to be. Shedeur Sanders is an accurate thrower of the football. He doesn't have a great arm, and he's a bit, I don't want to call him frail, because he's a tough guy. Give him a lot of credit. He takes a hit. And he played behind a deplorable offensive line 2 years ago. They improved it quite a bit this past year. So he's a tough guy, and he delivers the ball. By NFL standards, he has an average arm. So that's what we came up with concerning Shedeur Sanders. Trojan Fight, he would have been a top 10 pick in 2024. Bad idea to return. Well, in terms of team success, I would have to go back and review the 2023 games versus 2024, but he certainly had more success on the field based on the team itself. Big 12 defenses are kind of weak. True, in comparison to the two best conferences. There you go, Rich. Sanders is really not that good. Also, the NFL teams do not want to deal with the circus that follows him around everywhere. And especially once it got to this point. Burke says Matthew Golden was amazing at Texas and super fast. That's what my Packers needed. I love the Matthew Golden pick. Love it. Joe Long says Oklahoma State had a guy picked. Yeah, they had one of their linebackers selected. I believe that was Nick Martin. So, Adam, I don't know what exactly you're telling us here, citing Ryan Leaf and Johnny Manziel interviewing like Shedeur, because Ryan Leaf was the second player taken in the NFL draft, and Johnny Manziel was the first pick of the second round. Dylan Gabriel is Kellen Moore. Well, that's the easy comparison to make in terms of them both being left-handed. Kyle McCord is yet to be drafted. Yes, he's better than Gabriel as well. He was in college for that long for a reason. All right, folks, we've got the phone line. It's in the chat, so please give me a call. Otherwise, I'm going to run down the rest of the second and third round selections as I see them. Again, as most of you know, I am not an NFL guy. I used to be one. I used to know more about the NFL than college football. Not anymore. All right, so we go to the 51st pick in the draft. Carolina takes Nick Scorton, Texas A&M. So he did most of his work at Purdue, and then he transferred to Texas A&M and played off the edge. He led the Big Ten in sacks 2 years ago. Tennessee Titans at pick number 52, 20th in the third round. Second round, take Oluwafemi Oladejo out of UCLA, the edge. I know that I've seen him play. Nothing stands out off the top of my head, although I bet if I saw some scouting reports or some film, some things would stand out because I do have some thoughts on him. Benjamin Morris, the cornerback from Notre Dame, who was injured this past season, did not play most of the season. Probably would have been selected much higher had he not been injured this past year, goes to Tampa Bay. Anthony Belton, the offensive tackle from North Carolina State, he was supposed to be drafted higher. NC State typically has one offensive lineman who gets drafted high. Los Angeles Chargers take Trey Harris, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, who made some of the most spectacular catches you will see in college football over the past 2 seasons. On the Yahoo Sports broadcast, they were kind of knocking Lane Kiffin and that the style of offense that he runs does not convert to the NFL. And we're going to see that with Jackson Dart. It remains to be seen, but also that affects wide receiver play. And they went through a myriad of Lane Kiffin wide receivers at Ole Miss who have been underwhelming. Believe Trey Harris might be the next one because basically he runs 2 routes. So he's going to have to learn a lot. Let's get back to the phone lines. We've got Adam on the line.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on tonight?
All right, great show. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to make a quick point about Shedeur Sanders. So I don't know if it was in the early 2000s or 1990s. Ryan Leaf was very arrogant in his interviews. I believe he was from Washington State. Sure, he went, I believe, as the second pick, but he turned out to be a bust. When Johnny Manziel was in his interviews, they asked him, what's the first thing you're going to do after your draft? He said, I'm going to go to Las Vegas and gamble. Conversely, when they asked that question to Peyton Manning, he said the first thing he's going to do is learn the playbook immediately. I think these GMs have learned their lesson that toxic players are not good for their team. And I think, Shedeur Sanders, I cannot tell you how stupid can you be to make the simplest mistake by not being humble with these GMs. And I think that there's a track record of people behaving just like that, becoming busts. And I also think it bodes very badly for Nico and Daddy, who are following in that same trajectory. People want to see a player who's humble, who has heart, who wants to win and be a team player, and who wants to learn. They want Milrose personality characteristics with, say, Peyton Manning's talent. Peyton Manning was one of the few who combined both. But Leaf and Manziel set a precedent that I think will not allow the Shedeur Sanders of the world to get away with the nonsense and the shenanigans that they pulled here.
Well, Adam, I think you make some good points. I can't argue with any of that. I tried to phrase it a certain way that I think that general managers in the NFL, especially with the quarterback position, respond to a balance of somebody who is confident in themselves, has full confidence that they can be a leader, that they can come in and show themselves, and that they are tough and strong-willed and strong-minded and all those things. But they're coachable, they're teachable. They want to be a good teammate. They want to be a leader. They want to be a servant leader and be the first one in the building and the last one to leave and do all those things as well. And you bring up, to case in point, that are dead on. Ryan Leaf and Johnny Manziel in two very different ways. Johnny Manziel from more a talkative standpoint of bragging about who he was and what he liked to do. Ryan Leaf just being aloof and standoffish and difficult to deal with, talk to, communicate with. And they both were not necessarily hurt in the draft. That's the reference I was bringing out when I saw you list those two guys, is that, especially with Leaf, obviously that did not hurt his draft stock, but
True.
he was a complete bust in the NFL. Yes.
That's true. One thing I'll say is this. Shedeur Sanders, when you look at him versus the way Jalen Milroe talked to the media earlier today, talking about old school values, it's a microcosm of what's going on in society today, including in higher education. The parents are the ones to blame for these people turning out this way and not even having the common sense to do the simplest thing imaginable, go to an interview, shake someone's hand, show that you're about humility, teamwork, growth, okay, and something beyond yourself. And I see it among my students. You got 5 smart students, 4 of them who think they know more than the professor, and 1 of them who's willing to learn, who might not be as smart. You take that person every time. That's why Shedeur's down. And you know what? The parents of this country, both in professional football and everywhere else, should start parenting their kids and teaching them some damn values, or else our society is going to continue down the road to nowhere. I'll stop preaching. Thanks for having me on, Mark.
I love hearing the word, Adam.
All
You
right.
are dead on. I could not agree more. I think once a lot of these kids in general, not talking about football players, get to this stage in life where they're in college and maybe they're going after their first job, much like Shedeur Sanders and these guys are in the football industry, they haven't been told no their entire lives. They've been coddled and not held accountable. And then you can amp that up about 50 times for these athletes because the red carpet's always been rolled out for them. They've always been given exactly what they want. They've not been criticized or instructed in any way because a coach in a rec league or in a CYO situation or whatever in high school, in college, have been, too afraid to correct them because they know that they've got a elite athlete on their hands. And so they trade the disciplinary portion of the job to just keep the kid happy, or what you think is going to be happy. And it's to a large detriment of our youth. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good childhood, but I got to tell you, my parents were strict as hell. And when I was 10 and 11 years old, I hated my parents. When I was 21 and 22, I loved them. And there's a reason for that. They prepared me for being a resilient person who could overcome adversity. And that's what it means to love somebody, because you're setting them up for success in life. And Nico Imaliava is everything that I despise about character and about what a person should be. But I don't want to keep preaching. I just wanted to express that opinion. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you being here.
Take care.
I lose track of these shows in regards to whether they're Monday nights or Tuesday nights, because that's when most of the shows air across our network of channels here at the Voice of College Football, including Adam's Rutgers show. And I know that this is a show killer. However, we want to make sure that everyone's aware. If I can type. There we go. We've got the Rutgers channel there at the Voice of College Football. So join Adam and Gabe. They get together every week, I believe, on Tuesday night, 8 Eastern. It might be Monday or Tuesday night. Adam can let us know in the chat, talking Rutgers football. There you go, Minnie. Got to love those kids so much that you tell them the truth. That's one of the issues we have in this society. We don't tell people the truth. We coddle them and tell them what they want to hear. All right, looks like we've gone off in a direction here in the chat. Okay. All right. So again, it's the Rutgers channel here at the Voice of College Football. Check it out. I tell you, I would love to get these people with StreamYard that run the StreamYard app. I would love to get them in a room where I could run down about the 84 things that could be done better than the way they've got this set up, because every time I go to a full screen, then it wipes out the background. Okay. Back to the board. There's also the goal with this channel and this network, by the time we got to like year 10, that we would have some support staff and a producer. That would be nice too. All right, let's pick it up with the Detroit Lions taking one of a zillion Georgia offensive linemen. Seemed like about every fourth pick was a Georgia offensive lineman, or maybe just a Georgia player. Tate Ratledge, he was really banged up this year, didn't play a whole lot, or he played a considerable portion of the season, but he missed a lot of action for Georgia. He goes to the Lions. Then the Raiders step in at pick number 26 in the second round, Jack Besh. Jack Besh played with all sorts of NFL wide receivers at LSU. And one of those seasons, 2021, I believe, he led the team in receptions. He went to TCU, had a remarkable career. Jack Besh is an excellent player, and he goes to the Raiders. Mike Green is, I believe, the sack leader in college football out of Marshall. He goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Denver goes with RJ Harvey, who's an older back out of UCF, had a very productive career, especially these past couple seasons for the Golden Knights. Washington goes with Trey Amos, a talented cornerback out of Ole Miss. Chicago Bears with Shamar Turner, who was one of the highest rated high school football players coming out of high school to Texas A&M. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs and Omar Norman Lott, who didn't even start at Tennessee on the interior, but has exceptional pass rush skills for an interior guy, but he's undersized. Andrew Makuba is a flat-out playmaker, hitter for Texas. He started his career at Clemson and played for the Longhorns these past, I believe, 2 seasons as Texas went to the college football playoff. So that's my summary of round 2. And here we go with round 3. Toledo defensive tackle Darius Alexander goes to the Giants. I know nothing about him. Ashton Giat out of Louisville, edge rusher. I know the name, can't comment on his play to Kansas City. Cleveland Browns selected a tight end who was, and this is even in the year of Tyler Warren, the most productive tight end / wide receiver in all of college football out of Bowling Green. Caught 117 passes for over 1,500 yards. Harold Fannin Jr., remarkable productivity, great hands, great reach, huge body. Just he lit it up at the NFL Combine as well. Tested extremely well. He went to the Cleveland Browns. The Raiders with pick 4 in the third round, Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State, really good player. I've seen him on the field. Kyle Williams, wide receiver, Washington State, very productive player in his time. I believe he started his career at Arizona State. He goes to the Pats. Pick number 6 in the third round goes to Detroit. Isaac Teslaw started off at the FCS level, then went to Arkansas. Not a really productive player. Now, part of that had to do with the scheme. Taylon Green doesn't throw it or throw it well. And Isaac Tesla, again, not big numbers, but man, he is a big body, freak athlete, wide receiver who lit it up in testing at the combine. He goes to the Lions. All right, let's take a call right here at the Voice of College Football. We got Burks chiming in.
Hey, Mark, what's up, man?
Not too much. How you doing?
Good, man. Listen, here's a question I have for you. But so Jack Sawyer, man, like I know you cover Buckeye football a lot. I'm really curious about Jack Sawyer, dude. Like, why do you think he dropped? Because he was getting a lot of first round buzz. I remember, like in NFL draft stocks and like NFL mock drafts and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious why he dropped.
Well, I can't answer that question exactly. I can give you some theories. One would be that I know that this draft was thin at the top with few elite players. And then once you got into the 15 to 20 range, you could go, and I think this is the case in most drafts, but I think it's even more so the case from what I was hearing analyzed, is that the depth of the draft was pretty serious. So player number 25 and player number 120 could be extremely similar in terms of value. So there was about 100 players who were extremely close in value. And then I think that the league has always, and the draft has always taken on a approach and a trend of wanting premier players at premier positions, which actually he plays one at defensive end off the edge. I don't know if he's really considered a dynamic edge rusher. They put him at what they call the jack position 2 years ago, and I don't think that worked out very well. But of course, he had a great senior season and playoff run. I just don't think that he's considered a dynamic player. I think he's considered a good player and not an extremely explosive player. He's a high energy, high motor player. And again, when these drafts go on runs, like if these teams, let's say, are looking for a cornerback and they see that 2 or 3 come off the board, and that's when you see like 8 out of 12 picks go cornerback, because they don't want to miss out on the 8 or 10 guys that they have rated at a certain level. And that's kind of how it goes. Besides that, I couldn't really give you any kind of NFL evaluation on Jack Sawyer. Again, I just don't think he's considered anything special or an extremely explosive player.
Yeah, that's more than enough, honestly. That gives me a really good idea because, I've seen him, at Ohio State, and he plays pretty good, but I guess he maybe lacks athleticism and stuff like that, explosiveness, and, that can hurt your, draft stock a lot. So, yeah, and the Shedeur, man, it's like, I feel like it's going to happen to a lot more QBs, kind of like what Adam is saying in the future, I truly think NIL is destroying college football. I no longer like to, listen to recruiting and NIL stuff because it really pisses me off now, especially when players are like, I want this like they're negotiating and like this and that. And listen, I love your Voice of College Football Michigan channel, but I'm taking a little break on that because it's just too much NIL talk, too much recruiting talk, too many like fighting stuff. And I love the channel, don't get me wrong. It's just
Oh, I got you.
It's just I'm like on here more because it's less recruiting and NIL stuff. But it just really just I'm getting sick of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, the topics that I enjoy getting into, and I've always seem to have a lean on, are not necessarily the topics that most people are interested in, because they do want to hear about the transfer portal. They do want to hear about recruiting, and that's never been my strong point, nor something that I care about. Now, I talk about it and I bring on people that are expert in it, but I love to talk about the history of the game. I like to talk about great matchups and great games, and talk about great players and make player comparisons and player rankings. and I really haven't hit on or had the time to really present or produce the kind of content that I have in the past, where I've typically had all sorts of Big Ten player rankings, SEC player rankings, coaches rankings, all of that business. That's what I enjoy doing.
That's exactly what I like to do. I actually like to have debates with people. You know what I'm saying? I like to go on Ohio State channels and have debates as a Michigan fan, kind of like how Garrison, your guy, he's an Ohio State fan. He'll go have debates with like Michigan fans. They'll be all over him. You're right. I'm like, think of me like the Garrison, but a Michigan version, if you know what I mean. You know, like just having these debates and all this stuff. But yeah, no, I love it. It's just I truly think that NIL and recruiting, and it's just like, see, recruiting was really fun to like, do back in the days, but now it's just like, man, negotiations and these visits and, people freaking out. And now this transfer portal stuff, man, it's like back and forth. It's just a new thing that people are just arguing about, arguing all the time about, oh, this transfer portal. Oh, why didn't we get him? No, he said this. Oh no, and then our fan base keeps fighting over that. It's a new thing to fight about. So that I'm just a little, I'm getting really like bugged, you could say, on that.
Well, and also, why get invested in the decisions of a bunch of 17-year-olds? Well, first of all, I never got invested in it.
Yeah.
I never was interested in recruiting except for what I had to be interested in it. But in this day and age, why more so get invested in it when, I don't know what the percentage is, let's say 30% of them flip anyway before they sign on the dotted line. So these commitments are worth what? Depends on the player. They're not worth a whole lot, number one. And then even if they do sign for your school, they might be there for a year, they might be there for a spring practice, and then they may hit the transfer portal. So why worry yourself and follow all these offer lists and these, these players? And I see it all the time on social media, letting us know, these are the 33 teams that are after me. And then they send a tweet out a week later. Well, I've got my list down to 15. And then they got their list down to 9. And you know what? Just let us know when you've truly committed to a team, and then maybe we'll believe you. But we don't need to see these lists of down to 7, down to 5, down to 3. It's a bit self-indulgent.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree, man, on that. And especially like the transfer portal, dude, like, they commit, and then the next year, they go to the transfer portal. So all that celebrating and all that stuff when they committed and signed their NLI, it just, you know what I'm saying? It's just like that, So I'm kind of like, now I'm at a point where like, whoever's on the team and stuff, I'm just going to follow that, follow the team. And when, signing day comes, I will, see their, videos and their film and stuff. And that's that, because I really do feel like people are fighting. It's getting more a little like they're just too stressed out about recruiting and NIL, my fan base at least, right? For Michigan fans, all the time arguing with each other that, oh, this guy, oh, you're wrong, he didn't commit, you said he was going to commit. I'm sick of this crap, man. I just want to talk college football, just follow what their current team is. That's what I want to do. So yeah,
I hear you.
Yeah, well, hey man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for answering my question about Jack Sawyer. It helped me a lot. And yeah, man, I just went on your website as well. It's pretty nice. So yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing that, Burks.
Yeah, of course,
appreciate
man.
it.
Yeah, appreciate
Have
it.
a good
man.
night.
Yeah, you too, man.
What Burks is talking about right there, let's just think about it. The NFL draft is contiguous to National Signing Day in college football. And so it's always been my approach that I don't want to hear about players committing. I don't care. I don't want to hear about flips. I want to get to the finish line in December. And even that isn't as exciting or as fulfilling as it used to be when you believed that almost all those players were going to stay with that particular school for 4 years. But still, National Signing Day is National Signing Day. And finally, the players have committed to the point that they've actually signed a contract and they are at least going to show up on campus to begin the off season. And so get me to National Signing Day in college football. I don't want to hear about commits or flips. It's a bunch of crap. I don't care. Same thing with the NFL. And that doesn't make me a good host, or that doesn't make me a good promoter of this channel, actually. But I just tell it like it is. Now, in regards to the NFL, same thing. I never got into mock drafts or the speculation that this guy, his stock's rising, his stock's falling, he's no longer in the top 5. Just get me to the draft. The players get drafted, and now I know who's playing for the Lions, who's playing for the Browns, the Jags, the Cowboys, etc. And I don't. The speculation just kills brain cells, and 98% of it is not going to take place. So that's at least my approach to both the NFL draft and National Signing Day. And I have nothing against any of you that consume this stuff day and night and want to hear about every whim of every athlete. That keeps us going. All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football, we got our buddy Jackson stopping by. Jackson, I believe you're on mute.
Oh, my bad.
There you are.
I thought I was unmuted, but it's like, nope, I was muted. How you doing tonight, Mark?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Just telling everybody about the magic that the Voice College Football is bringing all of us, especially with the Voice College Football website. It's got some magic all over the place. Oh, yeah. It's got the host directory. It's got the list of shows, the lineups, everything.
There it is.
Yep. There's the magic. Yep. There's the college football show, which is usually on Mondays through Fridays, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Voice College Football from Mark Rogers and Friends. And the Florida show got moved up to tomorrow because our guy Tyler Natuno is attending a wedding. So the Tylers are going to be going at it, discussing their latest on the Florida Gators tomorrow instead of Sunday this week. But Florida at the Voice College Football brings you all kinds of magic if you love the Florida Gators. But there's the YouTube, the X, the Instagram, the TikTok. Yes, a TikTok account for the Voice College Football. Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all over the place.
I don't even personally have a TikTok, so I think I'm gonna.
You're not missing out on anything.
I'm gonna fire one up just so I can track our TikTok, and I might have a reason to I don't know, join in the TikTok fun. I don't know.
There you go. I mean, it's like I don't even know how long TikTok's existing for 2025 in America, but they keep saying that. They keep saying, "Oh, well, it's going away. Nope, it stayed. Nope, it's going away." It's like, just pick something, either stay or go. Like, stop doing that to us. But in all seriousness, though, I'm glad to see Jalen Milroe get drafted by the Seahawks. They got a huge win with him. And this is the 32nd straight year that the Seahawks have not drafted a quarterback in the first round. So
we've got to go back 32 years. So I'm guessing that was Rick Meyer of Notre Dame.
Yep. And tonight was the first time since 1971 that the Saints have drafted a QB in the first 2 rounds. And, of course, that was Archie Manning in 1971.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's huge in of itself. But, of course, tomorrow will be the rounds 4 through 7 picks for the NFL draft. For those that are like, oh, well, that's the boring part. No, that's where the draft steals are, the hidden gems are.
Oh, that's the blood and guts, the meat of the draft.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I don't understand why people think that's the board. It's like, no, you got to get up early, watch that.
Those picks come off the board quick. That's when you get your great analysis. You get to learn about a lot of players you don't know about. That's when a lot of stars in college football who don't necessarily project for the NFL that they drop. And I am fascinated by the last 3 rounds of the draft.
There we go. And our friend Matt Zemmett's firing up plenty of articles. Leanne Herring's got great articles. Alec Keyser from Indiana at the Voice College Football is firing up great articles as well. I mean, it's like a bunch of magicians in here, I swear.
That's it. VOCFB.com, everyone.
There we go. And I'm gonna get off here. Just kind of keep an eye on the show. Just tell everybody about the TikTok. Let's get that to 1,000 followers. Let's get that to 1,000 followers. Let's get the Voice College Football Instagram to 10,000 followers. Let's get the Ets account to 10,000 followers, everybody. And let's get the Voice College Football to 100,000 subs.
Awesome. Jackson, you're the man. Appreciate you being here.
Anytime, Mark.
It's our buddy Jackson. He's always in the chat. He's all over the place. The man, I would think that he's got to be a wizard at AI at this point, because it seems like he can be in like 18 different spots at the same time. All right, we'll keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got our buddy Joe stopping by. Joe, what's going on? Hello, Joe. Are you with us, Joe? Joe, going once, going twice. All right. Well, call us back, Joe. We'll keep it moving. We got Sean Garner stopping by. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
I'm good. What have you been up to?
Oh, not much. It's been a while since I've been on here, but yeah, been a real busy year this year for me. So, but found some time to enjoy the couple of days of the draft here. It's really interesting draft. I think there was people thought it might be a little bit boring. Not as many superstars at the top of the draft in this year. Certainly the quarterback situation it's a fairly weak crop this year. I know everyone wants to talk about Shadur here, and my feeling is I think he's probably at least like half the teams in the league are probably just out on him entirely. I mean, we saw a lot of teams with, that are in need of quarterbacks, not even just starters, but, good competition in the room, pass on him. We've seen, seen other guys. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him fall considerably further right now. I mean, I've never seen it. I've followed the draft for about 30 years now, and I've never seen a free fall like this ever.
No, I have not either. Aaron Rodgers obviously comes to mind just because of what he became. Obviously, He became one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and he fell, I think, to like 25th when he was supposed to be either 1 or 2. What draft? He was in. Who was the other quarterback that went?
Alex Smith.
Alex Smith. Yeah, it was Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, Smith went number 1, and then Rodgers dropped to, I believe, 24. Yep.
Yeah. So, that was the crazy one. Rodgers was being, sort of mocked, set in pencil at the first pick for like the whole process. And then about the last week or last few days before it, all the news, started to bubble up, and it was pretty clear out they were going with Alex Smith. And Alex Smith, he had one of the most interesting careers I've ever seen. I thought he should have been when he came out. I didn't think he was in the NFL. I thought he was an excellent college quarterback who was awesome, and a system that was way ahead of its time. And kind of a bit in his production, I thought was always a bit gimmicky. Normally, like if you see a guy that's like they go number 1 and the first like 5-6 years of their career they're just not good at all. You think that maybe they had all this talent, but they failed because of like, I don't know, personal issues. But that was never the case with it. He actually overachieved in his career, which is weird to say for a number 1 pick.
He did.
Yeah.
It was a strange number one pick because I don't remember anyone, including myself, thinking that Alex Smith was going to be a superstar in the NFL, yet he was the number one player selected in the draft. And then, like you say, he developed, obviously he went to Kansas City and then he took off from there and became a really good quarterback. And if anybody out there doesn't know the story about Alex Smith's injury, that's an extremely interesting and somewhat horrific, although everything turned out, gruesome injury that he
it almost cost him his
sustained.
life.
It almost killed him. Yeah. And if it didn't kill him, it appeared for a couple of days that he was going to lose his leg. And the graphic, nature of the injury and his leg just looked like, a meat hook. It was just pretty gruesome and he came back from it. But anyway, yeah. Shedeur Sanders obviously dropping to whatever number of picks we are at this point, 90. Certainly
102. Yeah, there's been 102 picks so far.
Situation. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, I'm just going to be fascinated to see how far he does fall. I don't think he's going to go off the board real early tomorrow. I have a feeling like a lot of teams, they wouldn't take him. They're not going to sign him as an undrafted free agent. Like they just want no part of him whatsoever. And I think some of that may be, just due to, sort of the circus that was created. They retired his number at Colorado. That's got to be sort of an eggplant faceplant moment there. I mean, you retire a QB's number a week before he doesn't get selected in the first 3 rounds, ends up going in the 5th or 6th round or wherever he's going to end up going.
Yeah, the whole Dion act at Colorado, I got to say, it's been full of highs and lows. He has looked a bit clownish at times, but he's also pulled through a few times. And certainly this last season, they won 9 football games. So,
yeah, if there's anything NFL, I know NFL coaches don't like, it's distractions, it's noise.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you bring him into your organization right now, he's not going to be starting for anybody. But if you bring him in, I mean, there's going to be almost as much attention on your backup QB as there is on the starter. And obviously, I mean, some of the reports I've heard from like anonymous scouts and stuff, I mean, those were just very strong indictments on his maturity and his temperament, which, obviously if he was as talented of a player at any other position, he definitely would have been picked by now. I mean, but the quarterback's totally different.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can almost draw some comparisons to the Nico Iamaleava situation. And all that took was one big wave by a booster or a collective to get him to UCLA, obviously making like 40 or 50% less money than he made at Tennessee. But, how many schools passed on him, and his dad and his agent thought he was going to be so marketable and be able to pick his spot. And Oregon says no, Notre Dame, USC, a number of SEC schools say no, and he winds up at UCLA. Well, this is kind of a similar situation, like you're saying, that it's almost not a talent evaluation at this point. It's that, are we going to go to this degree to pick up a backup quarterback and go to mini camp and OTAs and all these things and have reporters driving us nuts, asking all our players how Shedeur Sanders is, how they like him, do they like him, how's he fitting in? No, he's not worth it.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's but it was a crazy one. I was a bit surprised. Like Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck. I mean, them going as high as they do to me just signals that this quarterback class is just not all that strong because Jackson Dart. I don't like any quarterbacks out of that Lane Kiffin offense. It's just not an NFL system. And Tyler Shuck. I mean, he was in college for 7 years.
Yep.
And he started like a dozen or so games, like 15 games or something. It was something like that. It's pretty low.
Well, it might be pretty low, but it's got to be more than that.
Well, he started. He played this whole season at Louisville. But he only had like 7 or 8 coming into this season. I think it's very low.
Which you're actually reminding me, and somebody may catch me on this when they watch the replay. In kind of rushing through his career, I misidentified the year he came to Louisville. So obviously, the former Cal quarterback and Purdue quarterback Jack Plummer was the starting quarterback for Louisville the previous season when they went to the ACC championship game. In a brain freeze for the moment, was pinning Shook to the 2023 team. Obviously, he was still at Texas Tech.
Yeah. And I mean, even when he did play, I mean, he's just kind of being drafted on traits, I guess. I mean, because I thought he was a good quarterback at Louisville last year. I didn't watch that and say, like, that's a future NFL starting quarterback ever. So
the scouts apparently love him.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And he was one of these guys. I mean, I've been following this for several years. I remember when he was at Oregon, he was mocked as a potential first rounder for the next draft. I believe like in 2022. Back when it was like he was there. There's been a lot of buzz around him, but just not a lot of production at this point here. So
yeah, there's the stat line there. Now it says 42 games, but that doesn't mean he started 42 games, of course. So he probably started about half of those.
Yeah, so he's right around maybe 20-ish starts.
Yeah, he only played really a full season this past year. He sat out the bowl game, played 12 games, and threw 23 touchdowns with 6 picks. So that by far was his best season.
Yeah. So very interesting. Awesome to see a lot of the Buckeyes go, and I'll be interested tomorrow. I think that number could get up to 15 tomorrow total, which would tie the record. Okay. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
The record's 15.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that. There's a pretty good chance that the Buckeyes can get there tomorrow. I don't think they can't get past it, but lots of guys that should be drafted pretty early tomorrow, and then a couple fringe guys here. So
yeah, so we've got 7 picks in for the Buckeyes, correct?
Yep.
So we're looking at who do we got? We
got Denzel Burke, Denzel Burke, Hancock, Jordan Hancock, Will Howard. What's that? 4?
That's 4.
Cody Simon, Ty Hamilton is up there. Lathan Ransom, he definitely will go probably pretty early tomorrow, probably in the 4th somewhere.
Okay, so there's 7. Okay, so that would be 7.
McLaughlin, the center, Seth McLaughlin. Yep. So that's 8. All of them it's likely most of them will go, and I think a decent chance all of them do. So that'll be an interesting day 3 plot point.
Who's your NFL team, Sean?
Bengals, Cincy.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I'm not wildly pleased with their draft so far. Take a defensive end in the first round with 4.5 career sacks. I know he tested like all-time great, but I don't think those guys generally work out amazingly. And he played a lot of football at Texas A&M too. It's not like he just sort of came on.
That was Shamar Turner, right?
Stewart. Shamar Turner. Shemar Turner got drafted
scored.
tonight
Yes.
by somebody else. Yeah. So, yep. No, I'm. Bengals just taking, big athletic freaks. They did the same thing last year. Amarius Mims, who started 8 games at tackle and spent a top 20 pick on him as well. So it's kind of their MO at this point. So.
Yeah, every year that the Bengals aren't able to do anything in the playoffs, you got to figure that it's another year that Joe Burrow is already a 5-year, going on a 6-year veteran in the NFL.
Yeah, and the contract situation's changing a lot. He's obviously eating up a lot more of their cap space, and they've got guys they have to pay now, and they've got a fairly significant number of holes right now. So, you got to hit on these picks if you. I mean, this is the way you win in the NFL: is you get young, cheap talent, and you replace guys that you can no longer afford to keep. So that's all right. Quick plug before I get off here. We will be discussing the draft, the draft, and spring games for various schools and all the latest breaking news in college football tomorrow night on the Voice of College Football After Dark program. So
Love it.
It should start, usually around 10:30 to 11 o'clock. We tend to go pretty long. And if you are a member of the Patreon member of the Voice of College Football, either on YouTube or on Patreon, you will have access to the link before the show. So any one of you, you can sign up right now for a membership and join us to talk ball. Usually once every other Sunday during the off season, and then once we get into August fall camp stuff, we start cranking them out every week. So it's a very fun show, great community, and we don't take ourselves incredibly seriously on that show. So there's a lot of shenanigans, maybe more than we lead the Voice of College Football Network in shenanigans on that show. So
I would say that's an accurate statement. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mark. It was awesome reconnecting here.
Absolutely, Sean. And you're quite the pitch man. So thanks for letting everyone know about the big show coming up on Sunday night.
All right. Yeah. Jackson's been helping me. So.
Yes, he is the master.
All right.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care.
See you tomorrow night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so that's our buddy Sean Garner. And so the deal, folks, is that every Sunday night, if you're a Patreon member at the Voice of College Football or right here on YouTube as a member, either one, you have access to join the show as a panelist on Sunday nights. It's the College Football After Dark show, 10:30 Eastern every Sunday night with Sean, Ben, Jackson, the rest of the crew. Again, you have every right as a Patreon or YouTube member to grab the link to the show and join for as long as you'd like. All right, we keep going with the NFL draft here. A little post-game second and third round. We got Joe checking in. Joe, what's going on? Hello, Joe. Keep trying, Joe. We will move it on to our buddy David Greenshield stopping by.
Hello to the great Mark Rogers. Hi. Hi, and
Hey.
how are you? Hi, and how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Excellent. I'm doing excellent. A little late last night for you, so I wasn't able to call in and chime in with my thoughts on how my, do I say beloved Cleveland Browns did with this draft? Maybe it's not so beloved anymore, actually, after this draft. I got to be real with you, Mark. Listen, first of all, I will stipulate, I understand the trade that they made. I do want to say, I think Mason Graham is a good player. I do. I think he's a good player. Is he worthy of the top 5 pick in the draft? that's debatable. And I know there are mocks out there that have him as a top 5 pick, but if I'm taking a top 5 pick, I want a guy that over the course of the next 10 years is going to make 5 or 6 Pro Bowls and be a difference maker at defensive tackle. And they gave a list of the defensive tackles that have gone in the top 5 of the last however many NFL drafts. And those were guys that were difference makers. They talked about Quentin Williams. They talked about Gerald McCoy, who played for Tampa Bay. There was like a list of them. And they actually went back to Dominic and Sue, with the Lions. And you're talking about guys that played at a very, very high level for a long period of time. I'm sorry. I think Mason Graham's a good run-stopping defensive tackle. He's a solid player. He's worthy of being a first-round draft pick. I think somewhere in the 12 to 15 range, just to be reasonable. But I don't think he's worthy of a top 5 pick. Now, maybe that's because this is a weaker draft, and him going in the top 5 makes sense because it's not a good draft. I don't know. But they did get more draft picks out of it, so I can understand why they made the move. Any thoughts, Mark, on that? I know you probably expected them last night, but I didn't get a chance to hear it.
I, of course, didn't put hours and hours and hours and hundreds of hours and manpower and, dozens and dozens of people of resources into the decision. So this is just a off-the-cuff decision, just an off-the-cuff reaction to them drafting Mason Graham, trading down from 2 to 5. Pretty much what you just said. Mason Graham is a really good player, and I think that there is value to saying this individual has a very high floor, and even though we don't project or see him becoming some dominant player, that most likely he's also not going to be a bust. He is a lower percentage chance of being a bust. I think there's value in that, but I think there's more value in that the better team that you have, that you can make those kind of selections and say, we've got a need at defensive tackle. We believe this guy's going to be a really good player, and therefore we're going to take care of this need at defensive tackle. But when you're the Cleveland Browns, I personally, and who knows who they're going to draft. So this is a 2-part equation. What analogy or not analogy, what example I used was the 2014 draft, the Johnny Manziel draft, when the Browns, there was actually talk out there, John Gruden being one of them, that he would have drafted Johnny Manziel in the top 3 or 4 picks of the first round. There were actually people out there because he was such a boom or bust type proposition.
No, he liked Manziel. Yeah.
Yeah. That the Browns actually, as you well know, traded down, still got him the second go around at the top of the second round, and then drafted the cornerback, I can't remember his name, out of Oklahoma State, who turned out to be a bust. He was about the 6th pick in the draft.
It's escaping me.
It was a bad pick, but it wasn't a bad pick in that they made some outrageous decision. This guy was generally rated that high, just he didn't turn out. So there's the concept of, are you making a really good move in terms of what you're doing with your picks and with the trades and the logistics of the board? And then you got to go out and execute by making the right player selections.
Right.
So the Browns have not majored well in making the player executions. I don't know if you've kind of played along. I'm sure you have through the years as a Browns fan.
Sure.
I am not a Browns fan. I've been highly invested in the NFL draft for years and years and years, up until I got to say that I kind of fell in love with the NFL draft this weekend. But
okay,
that I just off the cuff, and this is not a remarkable statement to make because there's about 10,000 people that could make the same statement. I would have drafted better than the Cleveland Browns did over the last 20 years.
Hey, I don't know if you've heard, Mark, we have a general manager with I've heard an Ivy League education. Yeah. I don't know if you've heard, people have said this guy's got an Ivy League education. I'm not buying it, seeing his draft picks over the last however many years that this guy's got an Ivy League education. But, I mean, first of all, this fan base deserves a lot better. Bottom line, if you think about their drafting, by the way, the best draft they've ever had, hands down, was that 18 draft when they got Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, and Nick Chubb. That's the only draft you can say since they've come back where they got 3 impact players in one draft. 3 players that were solid contributors. And Baker Mayfield was here 4 years. Bottom line, Baker had 2 good years and he had 2 bad years. If you want to bottom line the Baker Mayfield experience as a Browns fan, you got 2 good years and you got 2 bad years out of him. Is that basically bottom line?
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
There you go. You got 2 good years, you got 2 bad years. And I think that, Dorsey, who was the general manager, and I think is a sharp guy, drafted some of the Kansas City players over the years that kind of built up their team, by the way, but was fired because he hired Larry the Cable Guy as his head coach in 2019, which ruined the season that year. Now, understand, I stipulate, and all these, your largest fan bases are going to come at me and say, first of all, I said he's a very good player. I didn't say he was worthy of the top 5 pick in the draft. So they can go off the deep end and come at me all they want and say he's going to be the next Warren Sapp or the next Aaron Donald or the next even McCoy or Sue. But come on now. In their heart of hearts, and I know they think that he's whatever because he was on their title team, but he ain't on that level. And he's not worthy of a top 5 pick in my view. Because you better be getting a Jones or somebody like that if you're picking a defensive tackle in the top 5 of the draft. Yeah. I did want to get to this round because I know your conversation tonight is obviously steered towards this round. Do you have any information on this linebacker from UCLA? Because I only watched a couple of UCLA games this year, and I don't know. This guy never popped to me, Mark. I don't know. Did anything there?
So before I comment on him,
sure,
I would have stayed put and drafted Travis Hunter. I just think he's that special, that unique. I think you need special players in this league, and there were only a few of them, most likely, in this draft. And you're almost drafting 2 players. You're almost drafting a lockdown, shutdown, special cornerback, and like a 3rd wide receiver.
Okay. Right.
I would have not overthought it.
Well,
I would have stayed put and drafted Travis Hunter.
So, do you think Hunter's future in the NFL is receiver or corner, though, Mark?
Both, but corner first and foremost. But
okay,
I think he gets the 20 plays as a receiver every game.
Okay, that'll play well the first year. I want to see how that snap count looks the second year, Mark, because he's going to gravitate towards more one side of the football here eventually. I don't think he's going to have an even snap count over the first 5 years of his career.
It depends if he's needed on the other side of the ball, number one. Number two, if he's such a great player on the defensive side that he can demand that I want to play a little bit on offense. I think there's a few other things that factor into that.
Just in, Mark, NFL wide receivers and NFL corners are a lot different than Big 12 corners and Big 12 wide receivers. I don't know if you've heard, but slightly different.
But this guy is a much better version of our buddy Chris Gamble.
Okay. Right, but...
And obviously he pulled it off in college. Now, he was just a cornerback in... I'd have to go to his stats to see if he ever played any wide receiver in the NFL. I don't believe he did.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is this thing may be a novelty for the first couple seasons, but he's going to be playing one side of the football 95% of the time as he progresses into the 3rd or 4th year of his career, I would say.
Well, I think he's more special as a cornerback.
Well, see, as a Browns fan, we need difference makers on offense. And I'm wondering if that's why Jacksonville took him, because they want a difference maker on offense. Maybe they want a wide receiver opposite of Thomas for Lawrence to throw the ball to.
I can't imagine that this guy is not going to play cornerback in the NFL. I can't imagine that he's going to be just a receiver in the NFL. He's the best cornerback in the draft.
Well, I was really impressed with his receiving skills. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Too, but he's the best. He's a tremendous prospect at wide receiver, but he is the best cornerback in the draft.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I liked the other corner. I probably agree with you on that. Although, what after him did you really have? Well, Johnson and Barron, would you say were the second and maybe third best corners?
Yeah, unless I'm missing someone. And Will Johnson didn't get picked until what, about the 45th pick?
Yeah, he went what, second round, and Team Up North fans were saying he was going into first. Probably some of those injuries this year may have cost him, though.
It was a very light wide receiver, corner, and offensive tackle draft. There were
Well,
few elite players at the three of the premium positions.
well, that's what I said. If you need the passing game handled, this wasn't your draft because
No.
it wasn't quarterback, it wasn't wide receiver centric. Um, So yeah, that was the tough part, and that was the thing with the Browns. They need skill. See, here's my point: if it's not the quarterback draft, at least get skill players and build up the line. Because there's two ways you can go with roster construction, Mark. You can either hope you get the lottery ticket and you get Burrow, you get Daniels, you get a generational quarterback, and then you build around the quarterback, or you can build up the talent on the roster until you land the quarterback. And that was my MO going into the draft, is because there's no Amari Cooper here anymore. There's no Nick Chubb here anymore. This team needs skill players. And it's also has an offensive line that's in decline. You know, Jedrick Wills has turned out to be a bust, and DeJuan Jones can't lay off a donuts. So it's, I mean, they need some help
I can't blame
in
them.
those. Well, okay. Hey, we know you like the double stuffed Oreos, Mark. I know you're a
Yeah.
fan.
Big fan.
So, I mean, I thought they needed 3 impact offensive players in this draft: a receiver, a running back, and an O lineman, in my view. So, but anything on that UCLA linebacker, Mark? I only saw UCLA play a couple times this year.
So I did not realize that this guy was that highly regarded, because I am aware of him. I'm not going to say that I sat there and watched UCLA football and eyed him the entire game, but as soon as I saw his name, I thought, yeah, I like this guy. I know that I've seen him play. I know that I've seen some interesting breakdowns that he's got, or at least at the collegiate level, kind of a unique skill set for a linebacker, and he's definitely a high motor guy that's got all sorts of great intangibles in regards to the being a great teammate, a fiery guy, again, a guy with a high motor. But that's about all I can give you. Yes, I haven't broken him down in any such way.
Because that was, I mean, that pick, just talk about a head scratcher.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a good guy to have on the football team, but not with the first pick of the second round. No.
yeah, because if you're the Browns, the first pick of the second round better be a starter that can play. And here's the now. To be fair, I think Mason Graham is a worthy starter in the NFL. I just think he's a reach as a top 5 pick, in my view. But I like Junkins. Did you take more of the Henderson over Junkins view, though, Mark?
I know that I found it interesting that, of course, they bring in Judkins to Ohio State, and they've already got a star running back, and then they obviously foresaw a long season and not wearing down either one of them and having them complement one another, and they have their unique styles. And Travion Henderson started his career as a classic finesse runner, but he turned into a more physical back, but not to the degree of Judkins. And I find it fascinating that I could never determine really who I thought the better back was. And lo and behold, they get selected within 2 spots of each other in the draft. I think Travion Henderson has better upside just because he's faster.
Yeah, you're right. He's more explosive. I would say maybe pass receiver. Also a very good blocker, by the way, Mark. Very good blocker.
So is Judkins.
Yeah, Junkins is good. The one thing I would say, though, a couple things about Henderson. And I thought Henderson was worthy of, and this is a decent back draft. By the way, I thought that when the Browns traded that pick, I really thought, the guy that they were going to take at 5 was Genty. I thought they might have gone Genty.
Mm-hmm.
Although some Browns fans were saying they were giving him Trent Richardson vibes. You don't want to go there.
Yeah.
go back down the Trent Richardson road. But
Well, he had a big freshman or rookie year.
yeah, he had a good rookie year, and then it was like, not one of the better Saban running backs in the NFL.
No.
So, but if you look at it, I mean, I like Junkins. I think he's a little bit more fit in between the tackles. The one thing about Henderson, I will say, is you do have to be real. The injury problems are real. He did miss 22. He did miss 23 due to injury. And he was never necessarily a heavy workload guy at Ohio State. Not a ton of games of Travion Henderson getting 20-plus carries, to be fair.
Sure.
That's why Junkins was so huge for this team this year, and Travion Henderson. So, but I like the Junkins pick. By the way, fanning out of Bowling Green, Mark.
Yeah.
The guy I said that could have been robbed out of the Mackey this year. By the way,
yeah, I've never seen him play. I've only seen a couple highlights, and the stats just jump off the screen. Obviously, this guy catching 117 passes for 1,500 yards as a tight end. But I saw some video of him tonight, and he's looks like he's got all the tools.
Canton native, by the way, Mark.
Okay.
Go McKinley Bulldogs. There you go.
All right. Played for one of the great high school programs in the country.
Represent Northeastern Ohio. Strong there, Mark. But yeah, I would say that he could be a solid player. By the way, I have a comp for Tyler Warren. Is Tyler Warren remind you a little bit of Dallas Clark?
Yeah, he looks. I don't know what it is, but when you look at like a Colton Loveland, like people were asking me last night because Loveland and Warren obviously were selected within like 5 picks of each other, who was better. And I said, just look at these guys. It's funny that Warren put up the video type statistics and Loveland didn't. Now that's not Loveland's fault. Obviously they need a functional quarterback to actually throw the ball to the guy, but whatever, he caught 35 passes versus Warren going off for 110 receptions. But to look at him, Loveland's more of like a Jimmy Graham, angular guy with the big wingspan that you could see splitting out wide. And I think he's shown to be a good blocker, but he's a willing blocker, but he's not some kind of dominant blocker. Warren wasn't really asked to block, but he was the focal point of the offense. But yeah, when you see him with the larger numbers and that Penn State uniform, and he's obviously a tall guy, but because he's so big, he doesn't look tall. He looks stout. Yeah, he looks like a Dallas Clark with the big shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tree trunk.
Maybe the same number.
Size. Yeah.
Same number, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, 2 first-round picks that are interesting to me. By the way, I was going to throw these out.
Both of them.
True. Very good point. Was Igbuka, speaking of Ohio State guys, going to play with Baker Mayfield in Tampa. By the way, could be a good trio of wide receivers there with him, Godwin, and Mike Evans. But also, Godwin got hurt last year. They may be looking at the future as their number 2 wide receiver opposite of Mike Evans if Godwin's not long for Tampa in years to come, So, also, by the way, the 2 receivers I like best in this draft were Igbuka and Golden, by the way, out of Texas. And I think Golden would have put up big-time numbers this year if Quinn Ewers didn't disappear off the face of the planet and become a bad quarterback. If he was playing with a semi-decent quarterback this year, Golden would have put up really good numbers.
Was Quinn Ewers that bad?
Mark, I watched some of their big games, and if you watch the Georgia title game, the SEC title game, in that second half, there were throws out there he just couldn't make. And there were throws out there to be had. That game really could have, maybe even should have been won.
How many quarterbacks do you think were better than Quinn Ewers in college football this past year?
This year, let me think.
There weren't many good ones.
Well, that's true. This was obviously not a good year of quarterback
You didn't
play.
necessarily have the C.J. Strouds and the Trevor Lawrences and the Bryce Youngs out there this year. know.
Well, maybe I'm also talking about his fall from grace because everybody projected him and Carson Beck to be like the top 2 picks in this year's draft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was kind of regression. I mean, if you watch some of their big games, Mark, and even some of the games as the season wore along, you know, I'm sorry, there were a lot of missed throws by him. I saw, you know, and they were playing down to some competition even before the Georgia SEC title game.
Yeah, he didn't super impress me, but I always ask myself the second question when I'm evaluating these college quarterbacks when I think, okay, this guy's missing throws. He doesn't look that impressive. He's supposed to be a big deal. But then I think, okay, who's better? And then it seems to be a rather short list when I think of Quinn Ewers versus the field in college football.
Right. This isn't like the 2019 college football season. You know, remember that I always say single
Sure.
that season out because the top 6 or 7 teams all had NFL starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, there was definitely a drop off this year, especially compared to last year, even too. So, yeah, I do think Golden could be good in Green Bay. Maybe that could be a help to Jordan Love next year.
I love Golden. He had a
Yeah.
great stretch drive in the playoffs.
Yeah, he could be good for them. And then Igbokwe. Also, Hampton for the Chargers could be interesting. Harbaugh wants to run the football. Could be an interesting move for him there at running back.
Yeah, Harbaugh's obviously had a good run of running backs in Michigan with Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, and before that, Karan Higdon. But those guys, they don't compare to Amari and Hampton. That guy's another level of explosiveness and power combination.
Would you have ranked him, if you were ranking running backs in this draft, would you have had him higher than Genty?
Without knowing the hype and everything and being fed the lines about who the best was, yeah, I probably would have. I thought that guy was arguably the best running back in college football over the last couple of years.
Okay, interesting. See, I was listening to a podcast the other day that was commenting because Genty was bad against Penn State. If you go back and watch that Penn State playoff game, they totally stacked the box to stop Genty in that game and make that quarterback hit some throws.
Yep.
I mean, let's be real. Tom Allen knew going into that game, hey, we're just going to sell out to stop the run and force this quarterback to throw the football.
You are right.
I don't think that should be completely held against him, that performance.
He had a big game against Oregon in week 1.
Yeah.
That's obviously the next best defense that he faced. And it's always a difficult analysis to make when somebody like that is facing 0 future NFL defensive players from week to week. Most of the games that he's playing against New Mexico State and Fresno State, he's facing 0 NFL defenders as opposed to facing 4, 5, 6 if he would have been playing in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're always going to question the competition argument. To be fair, that's kind of what I question. By the way, the Shedeur situation, how's this for a segue? Are you shocked?
I am a bit shocked. I'm not a big pre-draft, mock draft guy, but we were being told that he was a top 5 to 10 pick in the NFL draft. And yeah, obviously that was not the case. And now it's taken on a life of its own. So I don't know where the real football evaluation stops and where the stigma begins, where these NFL general managers just figure we're looking at quarterback, but we don't want to look his way because he's going to be a distraction, and he's going to be triple the distraction now because who knows how he's going to respond to being a 4th round pick, number one. Number two, we're going to have every reporter that's in here during OTAs and mini camp asking about, is Shedeur Sanders a good teammate? How is he? And this is what we're going to have to deal with.
Well, I will say this. I think that in watching him, I watched like 5 or 6 Colorado games last year.
Yeah.
You may have watched more than I did. The one thing with the Nebraska game was one of the early games I watched. I know that there was a ton of sacks in that game, and a lot of people, belabored his offensive line is not very good, and I get that. But also, some of those sacks were on him for holding the ball way too long, which I think was a tendency of his, which is one of those things that you notice as a quarterback, that there's that, the ball wasn't coming out quickly. I do think he's fairly accurate. I do wonder how much, because he had two good receivers, because he had Hunter and then Horn on the other side wasn't bad, if I'm not mistaken, Mark.
Sure.
I do wonder how many times, those guys kind of bailed them out. And plus, I'm a little bit, as I said earlier, dubious of Big 12 defenses. I always have been. I think most people are. And, that those were kind of the things that gave me a little bit of pause. I know he's not super, super athletic. He's actually more of a, pocket guy. So,
and maybe that's part of the evaluation that's weighing him down, is that, okay, he did not, I'm trying to think, the Nebraska defense is probably the best defense he faced last year.
right.
Okay. They didn't play Arizona State. That's probably the best. I don't believe they played Iowa State. So that's the best defense unless I'm missing someone, best defense he faced last year. He looked miserable in that game. And I think one of your points is leading into that. If you can't, with a pretty good set of receivers, and even beyond Horn and Hunter, I'm not coming up with the names off the top of my head, but if I saw them, they'd come back to mind. Even like his third and fourth guys were decent. They were slippery. They were quick guys. That if you're not delivering the football and you don't have enough confidence in what you're seeing to deliver the ball on time, and you're holding the ball all the time, that doesn't bode well for the NFL. And now we know he had an atrocious offensive line his first year in Colorado, but they did a lot to improve the offensive line. It wasn't Joe Moore award winning by any stretch. It was still pretty bad, but it was significantly improved. Obviously his dad made sure of that for good reason.
Right.
So yeah, then maybe there must just be a lot of holes in his, for all the positives, which are that he's tough. He'll take hits and stand in there and take hits. He took a lot of abuse, and he's, as you had said, pretty accurate. I think he's really accurate.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a great arm. And again, he's elusive. He's when you say he's not athletic, I know what you mean. He's not a runner. He can't burn the defense, but he's athletic enough to move around and avoid a rush.
Yeah, he can get outside the pocket and make some plays outside of structure. It's not like they were doing a lot of design quarterback run with him in, zone read stuff and all of that. I would say that, but by the way, to be fair, I was also a little bit dubious about Cam Ward on his competition that he went up against, because I wasn't thinking he was going up against great ACC defenses, to be real with you.
So that's another point I made the other night during one of our 37 Miami shows.
That's been reduced, though, right, Mark?
It's been reduced. We only do 18 now. But I was making the same comment, not to offend my co-host, Cam Underwood, who, of course, is orange and green all the way through. But I said, I know Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the nation, and nobody's debating that. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board and the whole deal. But what's the best defense he faced? I said, Florida. Isn't Florida the best defense he faced last year? They didn't have a great defense, did not have a great defense. They didn't even face the best defenses in the ACC. They didn't face Clemson. They didn't play the other best team, SMU. And I would have loved to have seen Cam Ward against the kind of defenses he would have faced in the playoffs. Just look at the run of defenses in that top 6 or 7 tier of defenses in the CFP.
Right.
Man, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Texas, Georgia.
Hey, Mark, I was a fan of the guy. I was giving him the Heisman up until about like week 9, week 10. So I'm not hating on them, but
Yeah.
to be real with you, the ACC defenses aren't the Big Ten defenses or the SEC defenses. They're just not. So, all right. Hey, you going to get back together tomorrow to do a little bit of a conversation on the drafts as well, my friend?
That's a great question. I really can't answer that right now. It wasn't necessarily in the plan, but possibly.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to watch out for it, my friend. Always a pleasure to talk some football with the great Mark Rogers.
Thanks, Dave. Good to see you.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
You too. David Greenshield, one of the great callers here at the Voice of College Football. Do appreciate you all stopping by. Keep in mind, we got our book right here, Disputed National Champions. Actually had somebody reach out to me. I'm not going to name him, but he is a media guy that reached out to me and wanted to start a project on national championship revisions. I kind of would enjoy that stuff, so we'll see. All right. Yeah, the Amazon link's in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. I know everything I've stated up until now and all the conversations about the draft is obviously why you're here. But for the continuity and continuance of the Voice of College Football, the most important thing I can say tonight is use the Amazon link in the description section of the videos, because you can contribute financially to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. So please grab the Amazon link, put it somewhere where you will remember it. Also, keep in mind that we can partner with you here at the Voice of College Football, whether you've got a product, a service, your own personal brand. Hit us up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. You can just hit me up personally, or actually our sponsor email is sponsorships@vocfb.com, vocfb.com, and just find out what we can do for you. And again, we are proud of our Instagram. We're proud of our new site. Check it out, vocfb.com. There it is. And there's plenty on the NFL draft, courtesy Alex Keyser and Matt Zemek, and of course, Leanne Herring. So check out those articles that are featured on the NFL draft as we push forward past the draft, and we'll be featuring some spring football and on into the rest of the off season. And then again, if you're on Instagram, please follow us at VOCFB. There's the Instagram. Again, it is the VOCFB. And we are growing, folks. So join the ride. All right, folks, it was good to hear from everyone here at the Voice of College Football on another draft night. And there we go. Jackson, thanks so much for supplying your great support in the chat and letting everyone know what we've got going on. I'm about toast at this point. You guys have a great night, and we will see you on Monday for sure for the big show at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, the college football show. In the meantime, as Jackson had noted earlier, the Florida show over on our Gators channel is moving from Sunday to Saturday just this week. So check out the Florida show and the Florida channel on a Saturday night right here at the Voice of College Football. See you next time.